All right, next up we have phobias, or more specifically, specific phobias. Now, phobias are a type of anxiety disorder that are more than just a strong fear or dislike. Lots of us have specific fears, okay? Lots of us don't like things. But a phobia is when there is an uncontrollable, irrational, intense desire to avoid some object or situation, okay? So even an image of the object can trigger the reaction, get away from me, and the uncontrollable, irrational, intense desire to avoid the object of the phobia. Okay, so what kind of changes from a fear to a phobia is where, most of us have fears, things we don't like, spiders, snakes, clowns, stuff like that. But when it becomes irrational, okay, meaning that just the thought of it sets you into kind of a wave of panic, or the picture of it sends you into a wave of panic. That's when we start to cross into what we consider a phobia. Now, what are some fears and phobias that are out there? Well, alone, storms, water, closed spaces, flying, blood, heights, animals. Now, you can see the blue lines in this chart are fears, and the green are phobias. So there is kind of a lot more, there's a lot of more correlation to certain things or that people have fears of. But with phobias, we don't tend to see one having a spike more so than the others. It really just goes back to kind of the individual person's reactions to things. Now, what are some of the big phobias that you should be aware of? Well, agoraphobia that I talked about in the last video when we talked about panic disorder is the avoidance of situations in which one will have a fear of having a panic attack. Okay, so people with agoraphobia tend to never go out in public because they're afraid that they're going to have a panic attack. So they kind of live as a shut-in. Now, there's also something called a social phobia, which refers to an intense fear of being watched and judged by others. So this is visible as fear of public appearances in which embarrassment or humiliation is possible, such as public speaking, eating, or performing. Okay, so social phobias and agoraphobia are kind of two of the kind of categories that you should know. Now, fears are not found in the DSM. You're not going to be diagnosed with a fear, but with a phobia, specific phobias, you might be diagnosed, okay? And the reason is that they are going to negatively impact your life. And in class, we'll take a look at some examples of people who have extreme phobias and talk about also some of the treatments that we use for those phobias.